Let's jump into our Friday night panel. Sky News contributor joins me every Friday night, Joe Hildebrand, and from Women's Forum Australia, Head of Advocacy, Stephanie Bastian. Look, we can't go through the chat without obviously talking about Iran, but this story really caught my attention. Apparently, researchers from the University of Sydney, University of New South Wales and the Adelaide Uni have been collaborating on drone-related research with Iranian scientists, Joe. I mean, what's going on here? Does anyone keep an eye on what happens at Australia's universities?
Yeah, well, the Chinese Communist Party does, Pricey, so you'd be pleased to know that. Yeah, this is the problem, I think, that you have a lot of academics who are almost instinctively drawn, and I've written about this a couple of times this week, but basically you have, left-wing activists, and that includes a lot of activist academics, who think that anyone who the US is against, they must be for. They see the US so much as the great Satan, just like the Ayatollah does, that whoever, the US or, God forbid, Israel is opposed to, they therefore see as a benign and non-threatening and perhaps even a sort of global victim. And that means that they end up sort of holding hands with these terrible regimes like in the latest case, Iran. We also see it with China as well. We've seen universities collaborating with the Chinese government because, of course, they see that as completely benign and Donald Trump or the US as being completely evil. And I think that creeps into other fields as well. So when that is the discourse on a campus among your peers in, say, the humanities faculties, then I think even the people who you would hope were the more intelligent and sensible, actual skillful people in, the science and engineering and those other more pointy-headed faculties, I think it just sort of seeps through. And so, I mean, how anyone could see Iran as anything but a horrendous, horrible, oppressive, bloody, theocratic, totalitarian state is just beyond me.
Steph, we're just seeing pictures there of the storage of some of these drones. I was talking to Michael Shoebridge at the start of the program where he said, look, it's very hard to find where these things are hidden because they're smaller and they're easier to disguise from attacks from the Americans and the Israelis. I think Penny Wong said in 2023, stop doing this. But you can quite make the argument that some of those drones we just saw would not have been produced without this help from these Australian universities.
Well, that's the big concern. And the question is, it seems that Penny Wong wrote a polite letter requesting that they didn't continue with this collaboration, yet there doesn't appear to be any follow-up. And it seems that the research has gone on. And I think these institutions, these universities are often tax funded. People want to know how much money's gone into this research and where it's gone. We're living in very tumultuous times now where there's foreign conflicts, and we have academia and academics and universities overrun with lefties that fundamentally oppose the West and oppose Australia and America. And so I think that Penny Wong actually needs to not only come out and emphatically prevent this research from going, but also answer some questions about how much funding's gone into this research, whether there has been follow-up and what she's going to do to stop it in the future.
Yeah, we need to hear from her about that. The Farrer by-election, Joe, is now going to be May 9. I think the date's really interesting because it's about 3 days, I think, before the budget. That would indicate to me that perhaps there's not going to be many things in the budget that are going to be very nice. It might be quite nasty. I'm also told that Pauline Hanson and Barnaby Joyce will be in Farrer this weekend holding a rally. What's your read on this? It looks like being a four-way contest. How bad would it be for the Liberals if they and Nationals if they were to lose this?
Yeah, look, it is going to be a very crowded contest, which is why Labor obviously is not sticking its head above the parapet. And of course, as you suggested, the government, a lot of people are doing it tough at the moment. You've got the opposition tearing itself apart and the government reaping the benefits of that. But I don't think it's a particularly great time for a Labor candidate to say, hey, vote for me. Aren't we doing a great job? Isn't your life going swimmingly? So I think that is the wise thing to do. The budget will obviously be smashed by those inflationary pressures we've already seen before the war in Iran happened. That's going to have an even bigger and worse effect because of the impact it's going to have on gas and petrol prices. And yet still, amid all of this, I find it absolutely staggering that the Liberal and National parties are each running candidates against each other as part of their three-cornered contest rules. It's perfectly legal within the party rules when someone vacates, both a Lib and a Nat can can run against each other. But you would think when the coalition is fighting for its very survival, they could at least present a united front against One Nation, which is going to face its first real test at the Farrer by-election, notwithstanding South Australia, and its first big federal test. And yet still they would rather fight with each other than unite and fight the giant wolf that is at their door. I find that absolutely staggering.
Yeah, it seems dumb, not staggering. Steph, there's a Climate 200 independent. She doesn't like to be called a teal. Her name's Michelle Milthorpe. My understanding is that she won just about every booth in Albury against Susan Lee last time when the federal election was held. She's got a real chance of winning this. I think you're probably going to end up not seeing a Liberal, a National or a One Nation, but you might see a teal.
Look, it's certainly possible, but Albury is only 1/3 of the electorate. She's still got to win 2/3 of those regional towns, and she was polling well below that, about 10% less than in Albury, with the coalition polling about 44%. So it's going to be a really interesting contest. I think cost of living and energy and water are big issues in those regions, and the climate brand could potentially be toxic there. It's going to be really interesting to see how One Nation polls. I believe David Farley is considered quite a high-profile candidate. One Nation are yet to pre-select. I believe that's all happening tomorrow. But obviously Barnaby Joyce is also very popular in New South Wales. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out.